This is an updated build of my Creeperslide Druid leveling build, and just to quickly recap the build, by the powers of Inexorable, Malignant Heart, Petrify and Poison Creeper, and with a little help from Subterranean Aspect, we are able to pull in mobs into a perfect little clump for us, to perfectly AoE with Poison Creeper and Landslide. I did do the dungeon at 45, I think I could have done it way earlier at around level 38 or 40. I was hoping to get Aspect of Trampled Earth and Symbiotic Aspect to start mixing in Trampled for the build, but alas, no luck. So this build will still be great for people who weren't able to get those aspects as well, but honestly it is still strong as is. Most of the aspects I used for the build was all from dungeons, so don't worry too much of finding the perfect aspects for your first Capstone dungeon. Anyway, let's go over the aspects I added for the build. So from my previous leveling build, I had Subterranean Aspect and Aspect of Retaliation. The Subterranean Aspect of course is a must, since it's the core of the build. It makes Poison Creepers active cast Landslide, and Aspect of Retaliation where your core skill damage is increased by the amount of Fortify you have. And we have a ton of Fortify in the build, so this is a great pickup. And the time I cleared the Capstone, I only had added maybe 3 more aspects. I added Aspect of Protector, Ballistic Aspect, and Aspect of Expectant. But I also added other aspects you can add in if you want, if you feel like you need more power to do the Capstone dungeon. And all the aspects I've added you can get from doing dungeons from all around the map, so no random drops. But yeah, for the helmet I went with Aspect of the Protector. For some defense, you gain a barrier whenever you hit an elite or the boss. And then for the chest, I went Aspect of Disobedience, always a strong defensive aspect to have, increases your armor whenever you do damage. And then for the glove I went with Ballistic Aspect, whenever you fortify your earth skills gain +2 ranks. And as I mentioned before, we have a lot of fortify up all the time. For pants I went with Aspect of Might, 20% damage reduction every time we use a basic skill. For boots I went with Ghost Walker. Whenever we use Bulwark, that's when we go unstoppable. For 4 seconds, you can move through enemies and we get a movement speed bonus. For the weapon, I went with Aspect of Expectant. Basic skills increase the damage of your next core skill cast. And then finally for the amulet, I went with the Crash Stone aspect. Earth skills deal increased critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. And we have a ton of that through Poison Creeper active, where we immobilize enemies, and then Petrify, where we stun all the enemies around us. So those are the aspects I went with for the build. But then again, for me, I only added 3 aspects, but you can add all of these aspects to clear your Capstone if you think you need the extra power. And for the skills, I'll just go over some of the changes I made just for the Capstone. If you want the coverage of all the full skills breakdown, you can check out my last leveling video. But yeah, the change I made was the key passive. I went from Nature's Fury to Earthen Might for this. I just felt like Earthen might just be better for bosses, so I went with this. But if I ever get the aspects for Trample Slide, I'll go back to Nature's Fury. But for this Capstone, I went Earthen Might. And then I switched up some points into Vigilance for more defenses and damage reduction. For damage reduction, whenever we use Bulwark, Earthen Bulwark. Actually, in my video, I took Storm Strike. But if you plan to take the key passive Earthen Might, you can also take Earth Spike. It'll give you more chances to proc that key passive and give you full spirit. So yeah, if I had to do it again, I would probably have taken Earth Spike if I were to take Earthen Might as my key passive. And the boons also stayed the same. We are taking Wariness, Sight Talents, Avian Wrath, Pack Leader, and Calm Before the Storm. And for gear, try to look for cooldown reduction in helmet and amulet. And of course in the gloves, you want to look for ranks and landslide. And try to look for critical strike chance too, also in the rings. And in the rings you want to look for vulnerable damage. For chest and pants you want to go all defensive with life and damage reductions. And for reference, I had around 3000 armor I think when I went and did the Capstone. But you probably need less to survive. But yeah, I'll have the default builds link in the description and comments so you can check the full build there. So for the gems, I went with Emerald. For the weapon, armor, I went with Sapphire. Damage reduction while fortified. And just like my previous build, I went with the Picana. Since we do a lot of critical strikes through Terror Mode, we get some lightning damage off through this. And then of course Inexorable Force. This is important to the build. This is gonna pull all the mobs to you when you use your ultimate ability, which is Petrify. And then for the last heart, I went with the defensive heart, which is Revenge. But if you can get something like Tempting Fate to drop, I think you should take Tempting Fate, but I didn't get one Tempting Fate to drop. Those are the gems and heart setup. I think just a great build all around. and barely requires randomly dropped aspects. You can get most of what makes this build works just from dungeons or completing early journey chapters. I will definitely try to push higher level nightmare dungeons with this after I've unlocked tier 4. But of course, my next target is level 70 Capstone, and I am planning to mix in some trample into the build too, as soon as I get symbiotic aspect. I will have an update for that in a couple of days. But yeah guys, let me know if there's anything that will make the build even better, or if you like this build update format, where I make regular update videos on this build till I try to perfect it. And if you do like it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And you can also subscribe if you like this kind of content, as I will be posting many more in the future. And again, thank you guys so much for watching.
Wait a minute. I'm out of spirits.